As far as the personal damages that came to me, if I tell you what I think now, you'd probably be bleeping me out.
Richard Childress just broke his silence, and NASCAR is reeling. The 80-year-old Hall of Fame team owner sat down with Fox 8 Sports and delivered a message that's sending shockwaves through the racing world. And what he said should terrify NASCAR leadership. But to understand why those words carry so much weight, you need to know what happened 2 months ago. Back in November 2025, the 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports antitrust lawsuit went to trial. During discovery, text messages between NASCAR executives were unsealed, and those texts were brutal. NASCAR Commissioner Steve Phelps had sent messages in August 2023 calling Richard Childress a stupid redneck who needs to be taken out back and flogged. Phelps called him an idiot, a dinosaur, a malcontent, and an ass clown, multiple times. In one message, Phelps wrote that Childress is not smart, is a dinosaur, and a malcontent worth a couple $100 million, with every dollar associated with NASCAR. The contempt was clear. This wasn't frustration. This was deep-seated disrespect for a man who built the sport. These weren't off-the-cuff remarks. These were calculated, vicious attacks on one of NASCAR's most legendary figures. Richard Childress has been in this sport for 60 years. He started as a driver in the 1960s, competed in 285 races over a 12-year driving career. He won 6 Cup Series championships as a team owner with Dale Earnhardt Sr., building RCR into a powerhouse since 1969. He's a Hall of Famer, a pillar of the sport. And the commissioner was calling him a stupid redneck. The texts were revealed on November 21st, 2025. Within days, Richard Childress Racing released a statement saying legal action was being contemplated, but Childress himself stayed quiet until now. In his recent Fox 8 Sports interview, Childress finally addressed it. When asked about the personal damages, he said,
"If I tell you what I think now, you'd probably be bleeping me out." So that is still to be carried on in the future, the personal attacks against me, and I'm like an old elephant, you don't forget.
Childress is making it clear that Steve Phelps resigning doesn't fix this. The disrespect has been shown, and Childress remembers every bit of it. The elephant metaphor is perfect. Elephants never forget. And Richard Childress is telling everyone, I'm not forgetting this either. This isn't just about hurt feelings. This goes to how NASCAR treats team owners. When those texts were revealed, Johnny Morris, founder of Bass Pro Shops, released a scathing letter defending Childress. Morris has sponsored RCR since 1998, back when Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Childress welcomed Bass Pro into the sport. His company is one of NASCAR's biggest names, sponsoring multiple cars and even serving as title sponsor for races. Morris's letter destroyed Phelps. He called the texts shockingly offensive. He said attacking one of the sport's pillars was irresponsible. But the most damning part was when Morris questioned whether Phelps could be fair and objective in enforcing rules. Morris called it a threat to the sport's integrity. He even compared it to Major League Baseball bringing in a commissioner who trash-talked Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, or Babe Ruth. The implication was clear. Such a commissioner wouldn't last long. Bass Pro Shops is a major NASCAR sponsor backing multiple teams, and the founder was publicly saying NASCAR's commissioner couldn't be trusted. That's a sponsor with massive investments saying leadership has lost credibility. Morris's letter came out December 10th, 2025 during the trial. The next day, December 11th, NASCAR and the team settled. When one of your biggest sponsors questions your integrity, you settle. And part of that meant Phelps had to go. On January 6, 2026, NASCAR announced Phelps was stepping down as commissioner. They called it a personal decision and praised his 20 years of service, highlighting achievements like the next-gen car launch and the Los Angeles Coliseum race. But everyone knew the real reason. Those texts destroyed his credibility. The damage was irreparable. But Richard Childress is making clear today, Phelps resigning doesn't fix the underlying problem. This isn't about one man. This is about a culture. This is about how NASCAR leadership views the team owners who built this sport. Phelps didn't come up with those opinions in a vacuum. He felt comfortable expressing them because that's the culture that exists at the top of NASCAR. The text between Phelps and Brian Herbst revealed a mentality. They showed executives who believed team owners owed everything to NASCAR and should be grateful for scraps. Phelps said Childress owes his entire fortune to NASCAR. That's delusional. Richard Childress built his fortune by working 60 years, winning championships, taking risks, and being one of the best team owners in history. This attitude wasn't limited to Childress. The trial revealed a pattern of NASCAR executives showing contempt for the people who make the sport possible. Without team owners, there is no NASCAR. Without teams showing up with cars, drivers, and sponsors, there are no races. That's why the 2311 and Front Row lawsuit mattered. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin sued because the economic model wasn't working for teams. They sued because NASCAR offered take-it-or-leave-it deals. During the trial, all the dirty laundry came out. The texts, the financial documents showing teams operating on razor-thin margins while NASCAR executives made millions. The December 11th settlement gave teams what they wanted: evergreen charters that provide long-term stability, a seat at the table for future negotiations through a collective bargaining type structure, financial terms favorable to the teams that weren't publicly disclosed but were substantial enough to end the fight. NASCAR blinked because the alternative was a jury verdict awarding hundreds of millions in damages and potentially forcing structural changes like divesting tracks or eliminating exclusivity clauses. But as Childress made clear today, the settlement didn't heal the personal wounds. The money didn't erase the insults. Childress is 80 years old. He's been in NASCAR for 6 decades. He's won 6 championships, and the commissioner called him a stupid redneck who should be flogged. That's not something you forget or forgive just because the guy resigned. When Childress says he's like an old elephant, he's sending a message to Jim France, to the executives still running the sport, to anyone who thinks this is over. The message: I remember, I haven't forgotten, and I won't forget. This matters because Childress isn't alone. Roger Penske, Rick Hendrick, Joe Gibbs. These legends have invested hundreds of millions. They all watched one of their own get disrespected by the commissioner. They all saw those texts. They all know that if NASCAR would talk that way about Childress, they'd talk that way about anyone. The question is, what comes next? Childress said the personal attacks are still to be carried on in the future. That sounds like legal action is still on the table. His November statement mentioned contemplating action with counsel. Phelps resigning doesn't protect him from a defamation lawsuit. The settlement doesn't prevent Childress from pursuing his own case. And he should. This isn't just about apologies or money. This is about accountability, about making sure the next generation of NASCAR executives understands you can't treat team owners with contempt and expect no consequences. But here we are, and Richard Childress just made it clear. He's not forgetting, he's not forgiving, and he's not done fighting. The elephant remembers, and NASCAR better remember that.